Hang in there.
That's Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Welcome back to The Smylie Show. Smylie Kaufman, Charlie Hulme here. The Open Championship grind has not stopped. It is just past 4 a.m. my time, and it's just past 9 a.m. your time in Dublin, Ireland. I got to say, Smylie, I think the odds that we were going to get this episode recorded after where we both are sitting right now, I think Daniel Brown might have had shorter odds to win the Open at the end of the week. So this is phenomenal. I mean, I'm proud of myself that I didn't skip my alarm. I'm proud of you. I mean, you had a night out in Dublin. I mean, that might have been an even more improbable scenario. How is Dublin thus far, and where are we teeing it up here soon this morning?
Oh man, I love me some Dublin. It's a great way of putting it. Daniel Brown shorter odds than us actually making this call, because we were trying to figure out when the heck are we going to do this, because somebody's going to be, or both, really. There's no win-win for either of us, because if we had done it last night, then I missed like the hang with all the boys, and then today, if I do it right before we go play golf, then Charlie's waking up in the middle of the night. So it's like you're kind of waking up to go to a flight, and hopefully that maybe you can take a nap somewhere during the day. But playing some golf in Ireland this week, got a guys trip. We're definitely going to recap the whole thing. Don't want to put any spoilers out there. Just everybody's going to have to be on the edge of their feet, if you will, as we go play some fun golf, man. I haven't played in a couple weeks, so I'm excited to see exactly where I'm going to hit my first tee shot, because there's not a range at the golf course we're playing today.
Golly.
So it's a shame that I have to work through all 7 swing thoughts on the first tee. So
that is in the episode dropping on Wednesday when we recap my Scotland trip. This is great. So we're gonna have a Scotland trip recap. We're gonna have an Ireland trip recap coming soon when you're back. But those first few courses were you show up and there's a net you hit into off of a piece of AstroTurf, and it's like, good luck trying to figure out where that golf ball's going. So, Godspeed to you, Smylie. If my brain short circuits in the middle of this, and or my baby monitor goes off, if either of ours, you know why. But we have some Open Championship to recap here. We got a lot of big picture golf storylines to dig into. Before we go there, Smylie, we got to give a big shout out to the people at Wear SPF that are presenting this show right now, and have just been a phenomenal partner to us. And I say that because in the midst of the move, I have a lot of cardboard boxes around here, and I've been trying to kind of locate things and figure things. And I saw one out of the corner of my eye earlier this week, and it looked unopened. Ran over there, popped it open. Full box of good Wear SPF product. And so there's a ton of stuff in this box that I'll eventually talk about. But where I want to start was what I used on the golf course this week, and that is the sunscreen sports stick and the sunscreen lip balm. Like, I love this so much because of the convenience that it provided to me on the course, where, to our point, we were talking last time about this action, the little seal hands action on the course. Mm-hmm. I got 9 holes in. It was a absolutely cooking here on Open Friday here in Durham, North Carolina. And instead of worrying about the whole reapplication process, pulled out my stick, put it on my face, lip balms on the lip, and kept it rolling. So, I believe you have a box on the way too, but Wear SPF off to a great start, and then came in at night and used the facial cleanser. I'm not using the correct term there, but it's A+ stuff. I'm loving it.
What was your takeaway from the facial cleanser?
I think
for guys that aren't skincare guys, at night, my wife has a full routine, and I just kind of wash my face and hop in bed.
So I love that you mentioned the routine thing, because my wife is much the same way. It's like, about ready time to go to bed, and she's got to go in and do her whole thing. I'm like, I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm just going to hang here and just, chill on my phone, watch some TV. I think I might become a routine guy, and I think it might all be built around the Wear SPF products. I mean, it's a fantastic facial cleanser. It's right in that like middle zone of, it's not going to shred my skin entirely, but it's also like effective in terms of cleansing all your pores and everything. So I might be a skincare routine guy. I think it's all going to center around Wear SPF stuff. I'm thrilled.
I love it. I love to hear it. That's amazing. Francie sent me a picture of the box at the house. I'm hoping to have most of the products there when I get back, and hopefully she hasn't used them all. But we're, it's funny that these are always fun to have a partner and talk about their products, and this is it was the weirdest thing on Sunday, because on the 13th hole, like looking at Russell Henley and Sam Burns, trying to find them from the fairway at 13. And I happened to just make contact or eye contact with this marshal or somebody who's, if not a marshal, he's a guy that is keeping score with the group. And for whatever reason, I did the worst double take out of him. He probably thinks he either his fly is down or that he peed on his leg, something in that regard, because he was wearing Wear SPF hat, and I was like,
"How about it?"
I was like, "Dude."
Like the Spider-Man meme. Hey, you're the guy.
It was a great hat too. So he, I told him that Wear SPF is a partner of the show, and he was like, "What show?" And I was like, "Oh, well, there you go." So now we're trying to get, this is a little bit of marketing going on now. So you're gonna have to go and listen to the show because we're gonna do a little Wear SPF blog on Monday. So hopefully, if you're listening, man that keeps scores at Open Championships, thank you for repping the brand, and you caught my attention. So there we go.
And here you go. If you tuned in, now you got a discount code, which is Smylie, SMYLIE 50. Smylie 50 will get you. It's a buy one, get the second one 50% off on any Wear SPF product, which is a phenomenal deal. You can stock up on a couple cans of sunscreen if you want to spread them amongst your golf group. I tell you the other thing. I'll add in a kicker here for both of us on the dad front. If you have a child that is tough to put sunscreen on, that stick came in handy. We took Walker out.
Yeah. Yes.
We took Walker out. I think this is Saturday night, I think. And, you get to that point in the round where his cheeks are getting a little bit red and he's getting a little bit tired. Almost like the hydration thing we talked about, where, he needs to drink some water. And I just hit him with the stick real quick, and he's off and on his merry way. So, another great hot tip for dads out there in the sunscreen game.
Yeah, Anna Carter doesn't have time for sunscreen. When she sees the pool, she is V-lining to it, and she does not have time to sit around and do the sunscreen thing. She has a mind of her own at 18 months old. So, yes, I ditto on that. And yes.
Yeah, Anna Carter.
Also, quick shout out. This might be the first time my brother has listened to the podcast, as he is in the room here. So shout out to Luck. So you got to know that there is the third person here in all this, just so when you're, taking in this hotel room, that my brother's here. And
Lucky gets a producer credit, and tell him code Smylie50 for Wear SPF sunscreen, SMYLIE 50. That's the code. Go check them out, support them. They're a big supporter of the show. So greatly appreciative to them for all they do. So with that said, Smylie, let's talk about the 152nd Open Championship. And man, there are so many places we could begin with this. I think that the text I sent to you as soon as this thing was over was, boy, did the Player of the Year race just get really, really interesting, which sounds insane to say out loud given the season that Scottie Scheffler's had. But now you have a guy who's won 2 majors. And as we come down this home stretch and head towards the FedEx Cup playoffs, you and I both have talked about on this show and know Xander Schauffele is the East Lake Whisperer. So if and when he does get there, he's going to have a great chance of winning a FedEx Cup. So I think it is so wild to me to go back to, earlier this season after the Masters, not necessarily that we were critiquing him for his performance there, but, at that point in time, we're talking about Xander Schauffele as the best, maybe one of the best guys, if not the best guy that had not won a major. And he's now won 2 and 3 tries since then. And really, for a lot of people who critiqued Valhalla as not being a real major, no better way to go out and validate that win than what he did this week in the conditions at Royal Troon, and especially what he did on Sunday. He had the round of the day on a Sunday. No better way to finish and go out and hoist that claret jug than what Xander did at Troon on Sunday.
DeMar DeRozan now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. But that's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercado, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
If this wind like we have out of the Northwest was here all week, it would be insane watching these guys play in it. But it's going to be a southwest wind, which makes it a little easier as far as the direction of the wind. And the guys will have it a little bit of a break on the back nine. But it is such a fun golf course, one that I really do think tests every single aspect of your game.
Only on SportsGrid.
Just start there with just, the massive, I don't know if shift is the right word, but just the process of validation we've seen from Xander in the past few months on tour.
Well, what an Open Championship to start. I think that's where I gotta be starting this discussion is, man, we experienced just every bit of weather. We had heavy winds, we had rain, we had a Sunday in which it was just a bunch leaderboard, a golf course that was very difficult. The back nine was just one of the most challenging 9 holes of golf that I can remember. And Xander Schauffele, like we talked about all week in our journals, just kind of hanging around. Him and Scotty were just lurking in the dark. So I think we both felt like one of those two guys were going to go do something on Sunday. And the weather was a big question mark heading into the day yesterday, not knowing exactly what we were going to get, because Sunday when I got out there, it was humming. And if just asking around with some of the other commentators, hey, what do you think the number's going to be today? And we all said probably 3 or 4 under. We felt like that with how firm and how windy the golf course was in the morning, we didn't see a world in which it was getting to let's see, Xander Schauffele ended up at 9 under par.
Yeah.
So I think just it's really challenging and difficult for players going into this Open Championship in particular to try to figure out what a good score was, how the golf course was playing, and what the winning score and that end number was going to be. So Xander, I think, did such an incredible job in the entire week in knowing what a good score was that day. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I feel like leaving the golf course, he had a sense of, hey, this was really good each and every day. The first day, first 2 days, played with Tiger Woods, played with Patrick Cantlay, which is a very comfortable pairing, but still you're playing with Tiger Woods. I feel like that's always been a kiss of death. People that get paired with Tiger, he's got to deal with the Tiger crowd. And seemingly didn't bother Xander Schauffele as he kept himself in contention. Cantlay playing well the first couple of days. But Sunday was just absolutely epic in that I feel like golf fans for the first 3 days, you know, you're glued to your TV because of the weather, the conditions. You're in a nice AC home and you're just watching guys struggle. You're watching the shots of the crowd, people with umbrellas, people cold. And you're like, man, this is awesome. But Sunday was a different viewing experience because, you know, you had the energy from the crowd. You had birdies being made all day on Sunday. The front nine, you had Tristan Warren. Like the whole day, you're like, wait, it's Justin Rose's day. Oh no, wait, it's going to be Tristan Warren's day. And then it turns into, wait, does Scotty have a chance? And then
Billy Horschel,
and then he
too,
four
right?
putts. Yeah. Well, I guess it started the day with Billy Horschel, and then it turns into, oh wait, Xander Schauffele won already, and it happened so quick to where, you know, it was over by the end, and that I just didn't have that on my bingo card with 9 holes left. That somebody other than Tristan Lawrence was going to run away with it because he'd shot 4 under on the front 9, and Xander Schauffele's on the back 9. And by the 14th hole, I was like, this thing's over. And Tristan Lawrence didn't do anything but make 1 bogey. So it was just it was a very unique Open Championship in Sunday that I feel like just lived up to, you know, what the great players do. And Xander's kind of entering that category right now, which is being able to play in the biggest events and have some of just memorable big time moments, man. The back 9 31 bogey free on the day. Heading into the day, I said, hey, somebody's got to go out and shoot 2 under needs to be your minimum on the front. And I felt like it was going to be a hold on the back, but the conditions, like I talked about, that were in the morning, they I would say softened. If it was 15 to 20 to start the day, when I was out there, by the end of the day, it was I'd say 10 to 12 mile an hour wind, and it was across, maybe just a little bit of help. And that was enough for Xander Schauffele to hit just shot after shot after shot, and then putted extremely well on the back 9. But the shot of the day for me, for Xander, was the pitching wedge at the 11th hole. That was a hole that, to me, was the ultimate decider of Xander Schauffele is going to be in this. The pitching wedge that he pulled from 173 yards from the rough was a perfect club pull, unbelievable execution, and to birdie a hole that nobody was birdieing. And that entire week was just the storyline, right? Like, it was the hardest tee shot, one of the hardest holes, and that set him up to then go birdie 3 more holes on the back 9. So, incredible day, and I can't remember what your original question was, but that was my Xander Schauffele spiel.
Well, we'll unpack Xander legacy discussions here shortly. I think that is a very helpful table set for the whole, you know, summing up the entire week, because you're exactly right. I mean, this thing went from, there are 4 guys at least, maybe even 5 if you throw in, you know, a Shane Lowry or Russell Henry sort of sniffing around there for a little while, that have a chance at lifting the claret jug here at the end of the day. It went from that to anticlimax. You know, I was on the couch sort of after being up early on the weekend to host a little in-game live show for SportsGrid. I was chasing around Walker, you know, all morning long. So I'm like, I'm just going to kind of just recharge a little bit here, wait for this thing to kind of finish up. And you know, we'll see a little bit of intrigue down the stretch. And I look up at a certain point, it's like, oh, Xander won the tournament. Like, this thing's over, and nobody else has a chance. And I think, to me, the way that switched so fast is absolutely amazing. I mean, Xander goes out, to your point, in 34, birdies 6 and 7, but then shoots 31 on the back, makes birdies at 11, 13, 14, and 16 to put this thing to bed before even, I think the final group might have still been on 15 or 16, if I recall correctly, when this thing was effectively done, and Xander was your Open champion. So, I mean, it's incredible playing. It's, to your point, it's incredible, you know, that sort of sense from Xander of, you know, where he needs to be in relation to the rest of the field to get this thing done.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
What he's doing on a 5-day basis, and when he pitches at that ballpark, there's one thing you notice: there's not one empty seat.
The excitement he's brought to that city, and the fact that fans are starting to come back, especially on the nights he pitches, I mean, it is so cool to see. It's so overdue, and you can't help but root for Pittsburgh.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
As of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on SiriusXM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
I'm even curious too, just as we kind of further the discussion on Xander, of what you think the sort of the X factor has been this year. That might have been an accidental pun, the X there. But just this year, obviously he did the speed training, he gained some distance. But what do you think has been the difference from a guy that has been steady his entire career, but now all of a sudden has 2 majors in one season after having none every prior season of his career?
Xander's been so good ever since, I've been, I've played against him my entire junior golf amateur career, and he's always been somebody that's gotten better every year, whether it's from his freshman year to his sophomore year at San Diego State. He just would get better every single year. And he's to a point now where it's like, what else can he get better at? Because that's how good he's gotten. I would say that this year in particular, he's always been steady. He's been solid in every aspect of his game, but I think you set it up perfectly. I think the added distance is something that is definitely an X factor, because now he went from being, above average to he's long, he's one of the longer players. And talking with plenty of players, every time they play with Xander, they're like, oh my gosh, he's absolutely smoking it. And whether that's off the tee or irons, because, if they're hitting 7-iron, Xander's in 8. That's how much longer he's gotten, which is in the pro game, it's a jump. Yeah. I would say that's considerable. The fact that he's able to hit one less club than the above average guy. So he's turned himself into a long player, and he's done it by, being in the gym. Chris Como has been somebody that's helped him. I think it was about Riviera was the first time I saw Chris Como post Xander Schauffele swinging a golf club. I was like, oh, that could really work, or it may not work. And I think from talking to Xander and Chris about what they've worked on is they've tried to steepen his shoulder turn a little bit. And when he was kind of working through these changes this was at Bay Hill. I remember watching him, and his time over the ball, his time behind the ball, I thought he was having to think a lot. To me, that was something that you just didn't see Xander quite be as methodical as he was trying to rehearse this feel. But it's obviously paid dividends, because I was a little down on a guy that's, working through something. And then you saw it, the players, and then it just kind of kept getting better and better to where at the PGA Championship, it was night game over. So it's been incredible to watch these small changes, make an impact to where he could feel like he can really go after it, because there's no better feeling for a golfer to when you're able to turn as far as you want on the way back and just rip it on the way through. And that club face is in a really, good spot to where he can deliver it and just have that full, full whack at it, if you will.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he is, and I believe he was, I shouldn't say this with 100% certainty. I'm almost positive he was second in the world rankings prior to this event. I know he and Rory have got a ping pong back and forth this year, but coming out of this week, he absolutely is second in the world rankings. And that FedEx Cup standings list got, ever so slightly tighter. Scotty is just shy of 6,000 points. Xander has it just north of 4,000 now, with Rory in third place with 2,500. And so they're starting to kind of creep up into our atmosphere with the one and done pick, Smylie. That's where Xander's arrived now, finally. So it'll be a fun race coming in. I mean, I think I'd be stunned if it was anyone other than those two, 1 and 2, heading into East Lake on the points list, with Scotty having a 2-shot lead over Xander. But it's going to be a thoroughly interesting stretch run with these two guys as the dominant forces in the game. And to kind of further that discussion a little bit, if you go to Data Golf, you go to Open Championship and kind of sort by strokes gained categories, it appears that the metric that most closely aligns with success this week was strokes gain approach.
Yeah.
Like that's where the most sort of green is. And if you sort by that category, that is a category that Xander led the field in at 2.24 strokes gained. Second on that list, Scotty.
Colin.
2.21.
No, I have Colin on mine. Oh, that's round 4. My bad. My bad.
Yeah. No.
Colin striped it on Sunday, if you wanted to know.
which I did, and that's another guy that, I mean, that's a whole other discussion as well, where it is quite the crew headed to Paris for the Olympics, where you have those 3 guys we just mentioned, plus Wyndham Clark. And curious to hear what form you think Wyndham is going to be in after a pretty brutal miscut, and just where the state of his game is.
One of the many exciting things about joining Liv was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv.
1, 2, 3, 2, 1.
I feel like when there's this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
OMG, what did we just witness? Our first ever double playoff in Liv Golf history. I am so pumped up right now.
So much happened on the last 5 minutes. I mean, it looked like it was going to the crushers and Annie Barton winning, and all of a sudden then Abraham holding a chip, David Puig birdie 8, then that little putt from Annie Barton on the last. I mean, it was great watching.
You know, it's really amazing to be able to do it in your home country, in front of my family, in front of so many friends, and on my favorite golf course. So it's obviously super nice.
obviously the putting this week was, not Scotty's best. We touched on it. And I'm wondering if we think this is a cause for renewed concern or same place we were to begin the season. It's Charlie. Just get him on a different putting surface. Red Fescue, he didn't play the Scottish last week, so he didn't really get that much of a tune-up on the surface. It's bumpy. It's weird. The rolls are different. It was a one-off, one-week thing. Get him back home. He's going to be fine.
Yeah, I had a good conversation with Jason Day and Denny McCarthy about the greens this week because they were bumpy. They weren't that good. They, I don't know if you could see it on the television, but up in person, you're watching balls just like do this. So the greens were not rolling true. And the question that they were talking to themselves about was, do these greens help good putters or bad putters? And they couldn't settle in on an answer. And so I think we found out the answer in that these greens help, they don't help bad putters.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Not saying Scotty's a good putter now, but it doesn't help him because he had a ton of whip outs. If you watched him the first couple days, maybe first 3 days, I didn't get to watch him on Sunday, but I think by the end of the week, he probably just didn't have any confidence in the putter and his green reading because I think they were doing a little bit of everything, to be honest, this week on these greens.
Yeah. I mean, it was just sort of bizarre to see where he was this week, in relation to the field. And I think, too, there are guys that we saw Shane Lowry roll exceptionally well on Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday it was like we were watching a different guy. And I think, maybe obviously wind comes into play when you're putting in Scotland more so than any other place maybe in the world. I can't say that with a full degree of certainty, but certainly more than the United States where most of these PGA Tour events are played. So, could very well just be a one-off week. I saw some jokes and suggestions that Rory's going to offhandedly suggest that Scotty should go to a broomstick and then he's going to come back and win a million events again. But yeah, it's just an interesting one from him. And I think we've reflected on this every major post PGA just because his week was insane there. But, where are we at on Scotty's season? I mean, obviously a brilliant season. Won, I think 6 times is where we're at with his. But I think after that Masters win, we're thinking it's going to be almost hard for him to not win a Grand Slam. And here we are, all 4 majors played. He won 104. Again, could finish strong at the end of the season, could have a good showing at the Olympics, a good showing at the President's Cup, and we'd say this is one of the better seasons we've seen in recent memory. But do you think there, in any way, shape, or form, he looks at, the weird week at the PGA, which you could just chalk up to off-course noise, and you're still playing pretty well in spite of all the arrests and the crazy situation there, but then at Pinehurst, maybe a venue that didn't exactly suit him, that week, and maybe it wasn't a fan of the unpredictability of, some of the lies you were getting when you were hitting in the native areas. And then at Troon, really just kind of came down to the putter. I mean, I wonder how you think Scotty takes stock of his major season in 2024.
I think he overthought the scheduling by the end. I think his I think he'll be better next year in planning his year around the majors, which he probably did. But I think this year in particular, he had a little bit of regrets in his scheduling. I think back to after the PGA Championship, I thought he was going to be off for quite some time. I didn't think we'd see him for a bit. And he played the next week at Colonial. I was like, why are you playing Colonial? There was no need to. He's had a great year up to that point. He'd won plenty of times. He just had a baby, just got arrested. Seemed like a good time to shut it down for a bit and to tune up for the rest of the year. And I think that bled into the U.S. Open, playing the week before at the Memorial, which I think the PGA Tour didn't help these guys out, by the way, with scheduling, the Memorial, the U.S. Open, followed by the Travelers 3 weeks in a row. And I think a lot of guys were worn out during that stretch, especially the Travelers. Guys are just dead. The U.S. Open, I think guys that were in contention, like Scotty, not making excuses for him, but I think he was a little burnt out at the U.S. Open. And this week at Troon, you can make an argument that, you should, why wouldn't you go play the Scottish? Getting some reps, some live competitive reps before playing at the Open Championship is worth it. But he had gotten there on Saturday, I believe, at Troon. So I'm not faulting a guy's game plan to get early to an Open Championship venue to try to see all the weather conditions. So I think if we're just looking at his major season in a whole, I think after the Masters, you would say you'd be very disappointed. But also, I thought he played a really good Open Championship, just didn't get the putts to fall. And then I think you can look at the U.S. Open and say, maybe just playing too much before the U.S. Open was a bit of a factor there. And I just slightly disappointed, but the year he's had, you can't say anything that he's done is disappointing at all. He's got a lot of trophies.
Yeah, well, and it's a great reminder of just how hard it is and how sometimes, we not like to overreact. We like to celebrate moments and celebrate greatness. And you're looking at the way he played early on and saying, we haven't seen anything like this since Tiger. And that's maybe, again, another reminder of just how good Tiger was, and that even Tiger never won a Grand Slam in a calendar year. That at the height of the greatest greatness that we've seen in our lifetimes in the game of golf, even that guy couldn't get it done. There are a lot of breaks and a lot of things that happen that are in your control, a lot of things that happen that are out of your control. And for Scotty this year, I think it was a little mix of both with those majors, and still, a season to be proud of, and one that's still in progress. And we have, time left to see, what he can do to close this season out. A guy that, we talked about, Scotty, 1 in the world still, Xander, 2 in the world, 3, Rory. We've obviously unpacked a little bit of his struggles, on our daily recap journals in much shorter form, but now have the space to do it in longer form. I don't know what on Sunday's in-game live on SportsGrid, I had Neil Schuster from No Laying Up on. It was a really fun conversation, and was just talking about the double-edged sword of Rory. And on the one hand, hearing him miss the cut and talk to media after and say, yeah, after 22 holes, I was starting to think about where I was going on vacation, was a wonderfully honest moment, refreshing to hear that sort of honesty from a professional athlete. But at the same time, I'm not sure I would have said that out loud to people who are fans of yours, to people who would like to see a little more resilience and drive and grit in an Open Championship and a major championship that, everyone's hoping for you to break that streak and kind of see you, win one for the first time since 2014. I think a great testament to a mindset we saw that was different than that was a guy you followed on Sunday, and Sam Burns, who was 7 over in this major after whatever it was, 11 or 12 holes, and shot 76 on Thursday, and finds a way to turn it around and get in and around the lead heading into a Sunday. Now, Rory might have just said, hey, I was a victim of this draw. I don't, I'm good enough of a player to know that, when I don't have a chance, I don't have a chance. And that was more of a comment reflecting that more than anything. But I'm just curious, as to your opinions on where we stand with Rory. This was the 10 years since he'd won his last major, and there were a lot of different chances for him to go out and win one. Obviously, he doesn't do so. He has won twice on tour this year at the Wells Fargo, and then, of course, with Shane Lowry at the Zurich. So definitely not a loss of a year. But, all that he's been through on and off the course, where we stand on Rory, and particularly coming out of this week, how disappointing this miscut is.
Just as far as, this week or just his major season in general, I feel, no more less confident than I already did that Rory will win another major. It's going to happen. It has to happen. It's not guaranteed to happen, but just from the amount of guys that I have an opportunity to get to watch, he's on a very, very short list, right? It's just going to be about, everything going right. And, doing exactly kind of what Xander did this week, which is just hang around, work. This is what Tiger Woods did for years. Just understand what a good score is and just find yourself in contention on a back nine on a Sunday. And like similar to Pinehurst, which he found himself in in contention, and he was taking advantage of it until the last, 4 or 5 holes where, he kind of all slipped away.
As of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on Sirius XM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
If this wind like we have out of the Northwest was here all week, it would be insane watching these guys play in it. But it's going to be a southwest wind, which makes it a little easier as far as the direction of the wind. And the guys will have it a little bit of a break on the back nine. But it is such a fun golf course, one that I really do think tests every single aspect of your game.
Only on SportsGrid.
Now joins that team in Sacramento with the Kings. Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Devin Carter, who they drafted early, Keegan Murray as well. A Kings team, DRS, that has been a playoff contender.
Is it going to equate to a championship? Probably not. But that's not the goal. Make your team better every offseason. The Kings definitely got better with that move here, Ben.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Another guy that, again, I'm not trying to do like the disappointment train here, but it's just interesting after 4 majors to just take stock of a little bit of the season for some of these guys. And this one, I think, has more of a finality to it, even though he has several events left to play this year. But we talked a lot coming into the week about Jon Rahm. And, you know, some of the breaks he had this year, his performance at the Masters, his miscut at the PGA were very much in his control. The U.S. Open, you know, having to withdraw because of that foot injury, out of his control. But he came into this week and really needed a good result, or, you know, and or a win to feel like in some ways it validated his standard of performance. And I loved the way he sort of battled on the weekend. He ends up with a top 10 finish, T7, 1 under for the tournament, 3 under on Sunday. It was, you know, 4 under at one point on Sunday, and had you know, one of the rounds of the day going early on. You know, obviously he's got the LIV team championship left, the LIV individual championship. Do you think, you know, what do you think's going on in Rahm's head and just his along with his team coming out of a top 10 in a major? That's a really, really good performance, but we know what Jon Rahm's standards are.
Yeah, no, this was a really, really promising week for Jon. I didn't think he had his best stuff at all on Thursday. And I couldn't believe when, you know, it really even after Friday as well, when I saw where he was at the leaderboard or where he stood, like kind of near par, I was like, man, this guy really grinded his ass off to be in this position. So I commend him for the effort that he put forth this week, because yes, we've been critical of his major performances, and rightfully so. You know, a U.S. Open, obviously, you know, the foot issue, which is, you know, caught us all off guard. But we do not judge people that have toe injuries. That is something that we have a hard stance on this podcast.
Hard stance.
But the PGA Championship was a shock, and he just looked all out of sorts. And that was one where you could point to. It's like, okay, this was really poor form, and I don't know if he had just bad toast or bad breakfast every morning, or his body wasn't right, or just, you know, for the first time, Jon Rahm showed up to a golf course and his normally efficient golf game just became inefficient, which is like everyone else and like so many other mortals on the tour. You know, he had just shown up to PGA with nothing, which was so unusual to see him so off. So it was fair for us to judge. It's like, is he getting enough reps on the LIV Golf Tour to be showing up to majors in form? And that was a fair argument. And we've been critical of him because we haven't gotten to see, a major championship where it felt like, Rahm was in the mix. And this one really felt that way. It felt like if the weather conditions held up like they were this morning, Jon Rahm is blitzing an incredibly difficult golf course. He's playing in some of the heavier winds of the front nine. Starts out birdie, birdie, birdie. You're like, hell yeah, that's sick. This is the Jon Rahm that we all love to see. So I think this was a really positive week for Jon Rahm, and for the live bots that say we're not, we're not supportive of players that have left the tour. I like Jon Rahm. I like cheering for him. I wish he was still playing on the tour, but it's our job to be critical of anybody that went to the Live Golf Tour and what their major performances are versus when they were still playing the tour. And so this was a good week for Jon. It's going to be a long time till Augusta to where we really can get to judge him again. And I'll, still follow how he plays on the Live Golf Tour. And he's going to have to do, something that like Joaquin Niemann has done, which is, shoot some really low scores, win, 2 to 3 or 4 times on that tour. Not to say that he's not having a great year. He is. He's finished top 10 every single time he's teed it up, but he hasn't won. So I think winning on that tour will be something that I'll be looking out for Jon Rahm, but overall a positive week for him, in my opinion.
And I think, Smylie, that's a good jumping off point too, because this is a year where we saw some good live performances in majors. I mean, we saw the best of those was Bryson DeChambeau lifting that trophy at Pinehurst and winning a U.S. Open, where not only did he play well on the course, but just delighting fans off it, and even during his round, really leaning into that. I think we've said numerous times on the show, including after the PGA Championship, how much we miss Bryson and how much we enjoy having him around, the excitement he adds to these events. Yep. So it was great having him in the mix. Of course, misses the weekend here at Troon and did not have that around to kind of, I'm not sure what his fan interactions would have been like in the UK, maybe a little different than the United States, but still, he's a fun guy to have around when he's in contention. And I just think in general, so Rahm obviously had a rough major season, but top 10 here. Bryson wins the U.S. Open. What sort of stock are we taking of live performances and majors this year? Because I think there's a two-part of this, right? It's like which guys are able to get into majors, and do those pathways look any different in the years to come? It seems like there's been some sort of a softening for major governing bodies as to like, hey, we're going to get live players who are deserving of a bid into these majors, provided they are indeed deserving by our criteria. So, I think that there was Cam Smith was an interesting one, misses the cut here this weekend, but a guy that was in and around it at earlier majors this year, and a guy that you and I have talked about. It's like he's going to win, in my opinion, he's going to win the Masters at some point. And so, how do we feel about what we saw, and, maybe some guys that we are excited to see, playing future majors, maybe some guys that, like I was looking at some criteria for DJ, like looks like might not play in too many more other than the ones he has a lifetime exemption to.
When I look at this major season in general for the Live Golf Tour players, I would, if you out of 10, if you had to rank, how they performed in this major cycle compared to prior years, I would say this was probably maybe the worst major season. Besides, like it's. I think Bryson gets the bump to where it's not the worst and in the middle. But if Rory wins at the U.S. Open, I think you look at this season and be like, man, this was a tough run, because it never really felt like, besides at the U.S. Open, that there was really a live golfer really in the mix.
I have a great appreciation for and more of a willingness to give grace to the guys that are making an effort to be additive back into the golf ecosystem and actively participate. And so guys like Bryson DeChambeau, to me, I genuinely have done a big sort of 180 on how I feel about him, because in his own way, he is doing something with the live money that I think is making golf a more fun place, more enjoyable to watch, that is bringing new fans to the game, and I genuinely appreciate that.
as of July 22nd, we start a new deal with a monster distribution platform called SportsGrid, and we'll be live every day on national radio on Sirius XM channel 159, and we will be live on their national television platform every day from 10 a.m. till noon.
Only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
He talked about Major League Baseball and its rule, or actually its relationship with sports betting and gambling.
Integrity is the foremost concern, and a lot of people are questioning that given all the scandals, right? There's Mercano, there's Pat Hoberg, one of the best umpires in MLB, suspended right now. We don't exactly know what he did, but he's been disciplined, and he hasn't umpired a game this year.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
The staple of consistency within the AFC North, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 17 years under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never less than 8 wins.
You add Patrick Queen there over from your division rival. You take a look at that offensive line, which does have some question marks, but still a decent wide receiving core that they have, a running game that has Najee Harris, and a quarterback that's been there, done that.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
The place I want to go to kind of wrap this thing up is just talking about Troon itself, RNA, the setup of the course this week. There was a lot of chatter about this. And so I talked to Bill Haas about this on In-Game Lab on SportsGrid yesterday, where just trying to separate the player perspective from the fan perspective. And, you know, I think he said, look, as a fan,
it was awesome.
I loved watching this. It was crazy. It was chaos. It was, you know, you had guys that were, you know, for me, the thing will forever sum up this week is watching on Saturday, Siwoo Kim go out in the early wave with the sun out and hit a 4-iron ace the 17th. And then watching Shane Lowry come through in the last group and hit driver there and still not even make it to the green. And that for me as a fan is like, this is hilarious. I love this so much. But and Bill noted this, and I think you've kind of alluded to this as well, is that as a player, I don't know if I would have liked it so much. I maybe would have liked certain tee boxes to be moved up and just would have made this less of a unpredictable grind. And so I just wonder the whole week in its totality, you know, where you net out on this. Like, are you okay with this being a very unique, you know, grindy, unpredictable, at times unfair challenge at the Open Championship once a year? Or do you think more could have been done to make this maybe a little bit more of a fair test?
Man, normally I'm all for fair, you know, and just a normal tour setup. But this week was so unique with how windy it was on Thursday, Friday. And the weather forecast on Saturday called for rain, but I don't know if it called for the wind that we experienced later in the day and just how the temperatures got cooler. So, golly, I kind of waffle back and forth because, yes, you could have moved a tee box here and there up, probably a couple up on some of those holes on the back nine, specifically the 13th hole and the 15th hole, and probably a little bit up on 17 and really 18 too. But, God, it was fun, man. I don't know, because you do make it considerably easier, as we saw with guys like Sam Burns, Tristan Lawrence, Russell Henley, even JT having really good Saturdays, being, you know, in that sweet spot, which was the tee time that was, you know, close enough to Shane Lowry at 7 under, sitting at around, you know, 3, 4, 2 over par, and have a day in which they go out and shoot 5, 6 under before the really conditions arrive. So I think the weather was so unique in this week, and that it affected so much on scoring on when you were playing. But at the end of the week, I mean, I don't think there was I think the players that were at the top of the leaderboard, I don't think they were just in the good wave. Like, I think these players, they fought through the conditions, they fought through adversity, and the tagline of the Open Championship, "Forged by Nature," was a really, there couldn't be a better tagline and saying of "Forged by Nature." This week was true to that, and I felt like the guy that handled it the best was going to be the eventual champion. That ended up being Xander Schauffele. But there were plenty of guys that handled the adversity. They just didn't have the just the X factor, if you will, down the stretch like Xander did. I think that the 8th hole, the postage stamp, is somehow underrated. I think it's arguably probably my favorite, if not top 5, top 3 favorite hole in major championship golf. And it's definitely in the top 3. And it lived up to the hype this week. It was epic. All the different wind conditions that we had, the huge numbers, the brilliance of the hole, how it played 100 yards on Sunday, and even Shane Lowry talking about the conditions and said, the best hole out there is 100 yards. And if you hit a good shot, you're rewarded. But if you're not able to, have the nerve about you to execute a shot on such thin margins, that you could walk away with a big number there. So shout out to the postage champ, epic hole in golf.
So Fun Open, Xander Schauffele, your champion golfer of the year, is second major in 2024. And so, Smylie, we're going to send you off to play some golf in Ireland. Of course, because you're on this trip, midweek, as previously mentioned, we have a little Scotland golf trip recap that felt like a nice bow on the last 2 weeks at the Renaissance and then at Troon, and now we have some more Scottish golf we're talking on Wednesday, and then we're going to come on the back end and recap the 3M Open whenever you're back stateside, Smylie. And then we're
probably get into this, man. Probably get into this Dublin golf trip.
Get into this. We might have back-to-back golf trip reviews.
Yeah.
You really love to see it. So we got that, and then we're into
Olympics.
See
the state of my game too. Oh boy,
we're gonna listen. Just no left or right 30-mile-per-hour winds, please.
I'm excited to go play, man. I need to go eat some breakfast. Our bus is leaving in 19 minutes, so
go grab some brekkie. Enjoy it, buddy. Thanks everyone else for watching and listening. We'll be back here to talk to you soon.